Kevvie, first of all, has a game for the Prime Minister's 13 to steer some talent against Papua New Guinea, but then on to the Ashes. It is bloody hell, it's exciting. It's 3 huge games. And Kevvie Walters, what a time for one of rugby league's greats to be elevated to Australian coach. Kevin Walters, welcome again to the show. A couple of battlers here, Vossy and Brandy.
Yes, just doing your best, Vossy.
Yeah, just doing our best.
How are you, mate? How are you, Brandy?
Good, yeah. Kev. Good.
Yeah.
Something that we threw up this morning, and we're talking about 3 games. Now, tell me, the last 2 tests are sold out, aren't they? And it's just
they are, yeah.
The Wembley test, which is the first one, isn't a sellout. Now, I said to Vossy this morning, I said, you reckon the impact that Reece Walsh has had over the last month, does Reece Walsh sell more tickets? Do more people want to go and watch that test at Wembley because Reece Walsh is part of, whether he's the starting fullback, he's travelling over there, and I think it might happen. I think his impact is that big that I think you'll go close to a sellout, Wembley.
Well, yeah.
You put a bit of heat on, yeah.
That needs to be answered, that question, doesn't it? We're so blessed for the Kangaroos to have such 2 quality fullbacks, at our disposal. I mean, Dylan Edwards, he's a Clive Churchill medalist as well, I believe, from one of his 4 grand finals that he's played in and won. So, yeah, and Reece Walsh, well, he's been the standout, hasn't he, in the last sort of 6 weeks, not just the final series, but also leading into the finals games. There's a couple of games there where Reece Walsh just hit the go button and the Broncos went with him. And, yeah, he's had a great back end of season and very excited to have both those 2 fullbacks, on the plane heading to England.
Okay, cards close to chest there. That's fair enough. The big question on the text...
Well, to be honest, mate, I've got to speak to the select. We've just picked the squad of 24, and then obviously it is up to the coach then to select the starting players and the bench and whatever. But I'll consult, obviously, the selectors and also the senior playing group and make sure we get it right across the board because it's very important that first game to get it right, isn't it, Brandy? Because you've been on tours and Wembley hasn't been a nice place for you and I. When we to it, we lost the first test.
Ooh,
so very important we get that right.
Heat was on then, Kev, wasn't it? The heat was on.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It just made it a bit uncomfortable on tour, didn't it? Every day you thought, please don't be the first Kangaroos team to come back to Australia losing a test series,
By God, we went close.
Anyway.
We went close. Who are the selectors? Who helps you pick the team?
So from Queensland, we've got Darren Lockyer and Cameron Smith. And from New South Wales, Joey Johns was part of the selection process, and Boyd Cordner as well. So, and of course, Peter V'landys, the chairman, he sits on top of it all and makes sure that everything moves smoothly in the meeting.
Okay, so if there's a stalemate on a player, does it go to PVL and did that happen?
It was all pretty much in agreement. There wasn't too many arguments, I've got to say. I mean, the side pretty much does, select itself.
Yep.
There was a couple of unlucky players, Matt Burton won certainly, to miss out on selection. And Reece Robson was the other one who's not part of this squad that was part of last year's Pacifica Nations. But Blake Brayley just, had a terrific back end of season and in through the final series. So he earned his spot as well.
Okay, well, Matt Burton actually misses out twice, doesn't he? With the withdrawals of Lomax and Coates, Best jumps ahead or gets the nod ahead of Matt Burton.
And I just feel...
And the Fox comes in.
Yeah, the Fox was an obvious choice. He actually rang me when the Parramatta Eels season finished and said, Kevvie, I'm going to keep myself fit. I want to be on that tour. You never know what can happen. And I took it as that's a nice phone call from him and great excitement about, the fact that maybe he could be playing for the Kangaroos. And there it is. Some 30 days later, here he is.
I'm going to pick you up on that, Kevvie. You're not telling the complete story. He would have said, brah, I'm right, brah.
Brah.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, I'm right, brah.
Yeah.
You're right. I've got to get in the lingo of it. I'm right, brah. You let me know, brah. I'm ready to go, brah.
Now, Kevvie,
that's the lingo.
When we said earlier this morning that you're coming on the program and we threw it open, listeners, put your questions in. The most popular question is, why so many halves in the squad? Can you understand that fans are saying, well, how does that work? Obviously, players go along on tours like this for experience, but you are very top-heavy in some very talented sixes or sevens.
Well, and the reason for that is because in the modern game, with HIAs, concussions, injuries, suspensions, it's such a key position for Australia and has been in the game of rugby league, the 7 jersey and the 6 jersey. So I felt that if something did happen to one of our halves, we got great backup in all those positions. And I feel that we need that backup as well. One from a game match point of view, but also from a training perspective. The training standards need to be very high as well, and that's what who's ever playing and who's ever not playing will be in the opposition team training against us, and that'll challenge us as well. So there's a few reasons for it. I understand there's a bit of noise around it, but I'm very comfortable with the squad that we've selected.
Kev, just the size of the squad. Did it go from 22 to 23, then to 24, or was it always 23 and you just added one more? And what were the circumstances around that? What?
Well, again, around three matches, 3 tough matches. Anything can happen, as we saw even at the weekend in the NRLW. We had 2 or 3 ladies concussed and HIA, so you can lose players very quickly. We said across the game this year in the NRL, in the men's and the women's, that all of a sudden with suspensions and the HIAs and injuries, your squad can dwindle very quickly. And I didn't want to have to call players in from Australia if we reach that situation, because you want your best players playing, and we can't put a halfback playing in the middle of the front row. So we want to make sure that we've got everything covered, and that's the reason for it, and for training purposes as well.
Okay, you stated your case, and they were happy to bump it up to 24.
Mm. Yeah, well, certainly, and that's basically what happened in consultation with the selectors. So
sure,
Kevvie, I want to probe you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, mate.
Okay, I'm going to
We're
probe.
good, mates.
Yeah.
Put the glove on.
Yeah, I'll go.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Now, I do want to probe you around the halves, just a little extension of that. Out of those halves, the 14 spot, the utility on the bench, do you have in your mind clearly who? See, to me, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, maybe Tom Dearden is the most likely to be a 14 out of that. Blake Brayley's in your squad, but I don't know whether he can only cover the hooking position. Would it be fair to say, can I push you, can I probe you on that Dearden is sort of a lead contender for a 14, Kevvie?
He is a lead contender, certainly is. And not only based on his performances last year for the Australians too in the number 6 jumper. Now, I heard just before I came on air, there's been some noise around Cameron Munster and why is he a stand? Why is he automatically the number 6? Well, maybe he's not. Tom Dearden's form for the Cowboys this year and also for Queensland, and when he played in the halfback jumper, I think for Game 3.
Yes, he did.
He's mounting a big challenge, and we all know how competitive Tommy is. So you can't leave, it's going to be very hard to leave players out, but they've got some tough decisions to make on not only the starting half, but also the bench, and making sure we've got enough flexibility there to cover, when things sort of don't go quite so well, or just to add some punch, to the game.
Ethan Strange, great to see him on tour. I guess now that Lomax and Coates have both been ruled out, that your wingers are locked in. The Wanganita-Wase and the Fox are the 2 specialist wingers. That's
right, yeah. So obviously Lomax, Zach Lomax and Xavier Coates were obviously going to be the starting wingers. And then with Mark Wanganita-Wase as backup and support for Sando wing position. So they're the 2 specialist wingers, and it'll be great to see Mark over there as well in the green and gold. He's had a terrific season. So it's very exciting, for everyone, and also Mark himself. So looking forward to that.
When you named the side, did Zach Lomax ring you and say, "Kev, I'm no good. The hip's no good"? Did you know he had a hip injury?
No. He rang me yesterday. He'd sort of been nursing it through the final series and training. He's a very good trainer. He trains like all the modern players. They really look after themselves and continue training. And he thought with a bit of rest it might come good. And he went for a run on Sunday, hoping that he could, and did some goal kicking, and it just didn't feel right, he said.
Right.
So he didn't want to put the team under pressure.
Kevvie, this will probably be the last chance we get to talk before the Root Tour, mate. All the very best on behalf of all league fans at the helm, and congratulations on the position, of course. But trip of a lifetime. Great man to have at the helm of the Australian national team.
I want you to get a tattoo while you're over there too. Ruse 2025. That's 35 years on, Kev.
There's plenty of room there now, Brandy, so that'll be fine, mate.
Kevvie Walters, right here on Breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. Good on you, Kevvie. This man has been riding, he's on cloud 9, really, for the success of his team. But to cap it all off, he needs to bring home the premiership this weekend. Super League Grand Final, Hull KR versus Wigan. Willie Peters has had one of the great coaching years, and he's online again now. Welcome back to the program, Willie.
Thanks, Vossy. Good to speak to you, mate.
This has been an incredible year up there in Hull KR, a great rugby league city. Your fans must be beside themselves with the success that you've had, but how big would it, or what would it mean to cap it off with grand final success?
Yeah, it'd be huge, mate. There's only been 4 teams that have won the Super League competition, and 4 teams that have ever won the treble. So, we've got an opportunity to go after that this weekend. It's been a long time since we won a Challenge Cup. It's been 40 years since we won a Challenge Cup, and we've never won a Super League competition before. So, look, they're really happy with what we've done so far, but we've still got one more game to go, and we're aiming to go get 3.
Willie, congratulations on the season you've had already, mate. Fantastic. And how good is it that Jared Warrior-Hargreaves is free to play? Now, we've spoken about the incident this week. That would have been a travesty if he was rubbed out for the grand final because it was a nothing tackle. I'm not surprised that he got off.
Yeah, I agree, Brandy. Mate, it would have been a disaster. They've got a point system over here. So basically, when you accumulate a certain amount of points, that's when you get a suspension. So for Jared, it was going to be a minor incident, which would have got him 3 games, which is what he got charged for. So, look, there was nothing in it, which everyone sort of saw. We felt that we had a great case, but we got off, thankfully, because it would have been a disaster for Jared to finish that way. But he's ready to go, mate, which is the main thing.
Wigan, of course, are a mighty club, and they are used to success when you talk about the clubs winning, and we saw them right from the get-go this year at Vegas.
Well, he's played there. He knows exactly.
Willie, you know the powerhouse that is Wigan. What wins it for Hull KR this weekend? If we're tuned in watching the coverage, what wins it for Hull KR?
Look, I think we just got to be consistent and stay true to ourselves. Like we've been the most consistent team throughout the competition, and we won the league leaders. So that sort of highlights that, but it means nothing now. We need to just make sure that we don't let the occasion get the better of us, and we as I said before, we stay true to what works for us. We know what we're up against. We know that Wigan are a great side. They won all 4 trophies last year. They've built towards the back end of the year, but we always look at what we can control and what we can do, and that's play our style. As I said, we know what we're up against, and we're looking forward to that challenge.
Out of the Aussies that play for the Wigan Warriors, Jay Field and Bevan French, both very quick. Who do you consider the most dangerous out of those 2? In your game plan, which one of those you're thinking sort of putting more time into, shutting down?
Yeah, mate, the issue there, Brandy, if you put your time into one, then the other one gets you. That's the problem. They're both electric players, mate. Bevan's probably been the standout when he has played. He's been injured, but Jai Field was in the top 3 last night for the Man of Steel. So, look, with Wigan, you just can't. You got to play for 80, and if it means you got to go to 90, you got to do that because they're the type of team. They're the best transitional team in the competition. If there's a loose ball or a poor end of set, they'll hurt you. So we've got to make sure that we have control of the game and finish on our terms on last play, and just make sure that we can minimise what they do because they're going to pop up. You need to concentrate and you need to keep moving because that's the only way that you'll minimise what they do.
By the way, Jake Connor won Man of Steel from Leeds, the side coached by Brad Arthur. Willie Peters, our special guest. For those who, they're reading results and say, oh, gee, Willie Peters, he must coach, and they're throwing your name around for, possible jobs out here, head coaching jobs out here. What sort of coach is Willie Peters? Because a lot of people listening now probably don't watch Are you the Bellamy style? Because you're not in a coach's box a lot of games, Willie. You're sitting out the back of stands with the crowd around you. So what sort of coach are you? Are you emotion? Are you poker faced? Tell us about Willie Peters, the coach.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit of both, mate. I just try and stay true to who I am, and if it's time to do a Craig Bellamy, I'll do that. But if it's time to be like Wayne, I'll do that as well. It's just how I'm feeling. Look, I've had some wonderful coaches. I worked under Wayne, so I was fortunate enough to see what he did. Anthony Seibold. I had Adam O'Brien. I've been involved with many coaches and seen their styles. I think the main thing is you just got to do and be yourself. I've learnt so much from those guys, but when it comes to emotional, I'm an honest coach. I want to make sure that the players know what I'm thinking, and I like to be honest and upfront with him. And sometimes that's with a bit of a spray. Other times it's an arm around them, and I think that's the important part is being aware of your player. So, look, as I say, Wayne's probably the best on feel. You can't measure feel, but understanding a group and walking in a room, there's none better than Wayne. And I think that's really important as a coach.
It is such a hard thing to measure. Willie, Andrew and I find ourselves talking about, and people will often say, and we open up the lines, who should be coach, who's a great coach, who you don't. It's a very hard thing to measure, and unless you've spent time with someone, you really have no idea, because you're judging them off results, and sometimes that's skewed too. How different are you as a coach to when you first started back in 2016 with the Tigers under-20 side? Like, I can imagine coaching is something that you are just continually evolving as a person and a coach.
Yeah, absolutely, Brandy. Look, my number one area that I value the most is relationships. I think it's really important to build strong relationships, just so your players trust you then, and your staff around you trust you. That's the important part. Like, people talk about culture and what culture is. It's just having good people who act a certain way. And for me, that's my number one sort of coaching philosophy is around relationships and how you act every day. So, look, you learn every day. I'm sure that the senior coaches, Craig Bellamy's and Wayne's too, they're still learning and evolving. But that'll never change for me. Is how you treat others and how you handle the people around you. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. Everyone's got feeling, and we're all up and down, and players are certainly up and down in terms of what they got to go through. So it's just making sure that you're level-headed with them.
Big question for you, Willie, and congratulations on Super League Coach of the Year. And we forgot to mention, congratulations on appointment as Assistant Australian Coach.
Oh,
now,
yes.
Without disrespecting whole KR, and you may be there forever, but in your life plan, do you have a year that you'd like to be back and have experienced head coaching in Australia? Like you've said, well, I'd like to have done that by 2030 or within the next 2 years. Do you have that in your goals and plans, Willie?
Look, I've got in my goals is certainly to coach in the NRL. I'd love to do that. But one thing I learned as, when I was younger as a player, when you make your mistakes and your early days of coaching is probably thinking too far ahead. In the past, I probably thought too far behind. And then I got to the stage where I was thinking too far ahead. I know it can be a cliche, but it is. I just worry about now and getting that right, because I know in coaching and rugby league, as you guys know, it can change pretty quickly. So if I'm not, concentrating on the now, then I don't do my job properly, and then I'll never be, able to achieve some goals. So I do want to coach in the NRL at some stage. When that is, I'm not too sure. My main focus and sole focus is obviously winning the competition this week. I'm contracted to 2028, but it's something that I want to do. That's for sure.
Okay, well, they love you, and okay, you got a job there for life. You know that, and that would probably come with a lot of fish and chips too. They are the best fish and chips in the world, aren't they? Willie, we've got to sign off on that. Best ever.
Yeah.
100%.
Sorry, mate, you just cut out.
No, the best chips in the world are fish and chips in the world, aren't they? In Hull, that's part of the deal.
Absolutely, mate. I've had to send a couple of mates over, and they've had fish and chips every second night, so it's been cheap for us.
Yeah, mate. When you get fish, Brandy, on a plate, in a milk bar, like in a takeaway place, and the fish drapes over the edges, it's that big.
Wow.
Piece of haddock.
Big fish.
How good.
Big fish.
Willie, all the very best for the Super League Grand Final, and all the very best as assistant coach to Kevvie Walters with the Australian side. What an exciting time for you. Well done.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
premiership winning assistant coach, Trent Barrett. Throwback Thursday means you're old. So welcome to the program, old chap. And
Morning, Baz.
Nice to have you on the show.
Hey, Vossy. Hey, Brandy. How are you?
Yeah, good. What a week. We do have to start. We're here to talk about your career, but we have to start with the assistant coaching thing. And we saw the reaction in the box. I mean, you guys were losing it, understandably. What is that moment like? Realisation of premiership win?
Yeah, probably still sinking in, to be honest. It was an unbelievable game, as you know. But it wasn't just that game. It was the whole month probably leading into that win, and I guess just the circumstances around the whole year, and it's a little bit of relief, but it was just, it was unbelievable the way they did it. And to come back, particularly against Melbourne, who rarely give up a lead, Penrith exactly the same the last week, and Canberra, it was just, it was unbelievable. And the crowd, it was like we were playing at Suncorp. There was that many Broncos supporters there. So I was just over the moon and really happy. We had a fair bit of adversity to deal with during the year with injuries, and particularly with the balance of our spine, and no Renault for a while, and then no Ezra, no Billy Walters. Reece missed 6 weeks in the middle of the year, so it was we had a lot of work to do as a team and a coaching staff to get them to where they were, and just a credit to the players how they did it through that last month. It was unbelievable.
Baz, I didn't think you guys could win the comp, and until you beat Melbourne in round 27, and on the following Monday morning, we came into work and we started chatting rugby league, and Vossy said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think Brisbane can win the comp, just on what I saw in that game against Melbourne." And I know Melbourne went through some adversity in that game, and they lost Hughes, but there was something about the intensity and the commitment and the resilience defensively that I thought, oh, okay, well, now that they're in the top four and they just showed that, I think they can win the comp. And that's how it turned out. But, what do you think on that, Baz?
Oh, yep, you're right. It was, as I said, it was such a funny year. Like we had, and it was finding the balance of the footy that suited us and getting them to believe in what we wanted them to do, because the team has got one button, and that's faster, and we needed to find a balance into playing with some control and finding a defensive resolve, and it took some time, but I think that it probably happened a little bit earlier for us. When it was the game down in Melbourne, we lost 22-2, but it was the game when we were level pegging with Melbourne and going really, really well, and bombed a couple of early tries, but Renault, Ezra and Selwyn got injured. And it was probably one of our best performances of the year. It didn't reflect it on the scoreboard. And from then on, we went on a bit of a run with those injuries, and the team, I don't know, something just clicked down there, and the more we won, and we went on a run there and won a heap of games, and there was, each week we won, there was a little bit more belief. And then we had a few challenges with changing between Renault and Benny Hunt, because they're completely different when they play 7 and they play at a different tempo. So that was a challenge as well. And then we had Billy there. But I think it was just belief, and it just grew over the back end of the year. And then, winning in Canberra, the Melbourne home game where we give it to Melbourne at home, that was when we really thought, we can win it.
We're here to talk a little more about you and your career. And Brandy wants to take us back to tomorrow, do you not, Brandy?
Well, I just want to know and I'm sure I've asked Liam Martin, Baz, how are you related to Trent, but I've forgotten. So I'll get you to tell the story. And then there's also Luke Bruce, who was a 300 gamer for Hawthorn, premiership winner, a fantastic AFL player. He's a cousin as well. Just tell us how it all fits together.
Yeah, they're both on different sides of the family. So Liam's my first cousin. He's my mum's brother's son, Uncle Phil. So he's from Temora, Liam. He was always playing league. But Luke Bruce is my dad's sister's son. So he's on the Barrett side of the family. But he was a good footy player too. He could have went to the Cowboys. Wow. He was a fullback at home. But where Temora is situated is only 2 hours from the Victorian border. So they infiltrate a little bit down there near Wagga. So Luke ended up I think he was in the Swans Academy, and then went down to Hawthorn, and he won 4 comps, Lukey. He's all Australian, and he's just retired actually. He's had a great career.
What about the move to St Gregory's College, Campbelltown? Famous college, boarding, that sort of thing. Well, how big at the time was that? Did you know that this is what I need to do to get where I want to go in rugby league?
Yeah, I think so. I was always going there anyway. Both my brothers went to St Greg's. It was an ag college back in the day as well, and a lot of country boys went there. More went there to play footy. I went there on a scholarship with the Steelers, actually. So I was signed at the Steelers by a guy called Ian Kirk, and Neil Lovett was there, and Graham Murray was actually the first grade coach then at Steelers. And I could have went. I was in an academy with the Roosters, and I used to do a few things with the Raiders. But in those days, Freddie was just going over to the Roosters, and Laurie Daly was at Canberra. So Andrew Farrell was the 5'8" at Steelers. So Pops was about 50 years old then, so I thought I'll go there. And I'd be a chance to play first grade. And I didn't really want to live in Sydney, so Wollongong was a good choice for me.
Who else was in that St Greg's side in 1995? Anyone else that went on to play first grade?
94, we had a really good side when I was in year 11. So that was Simon Benetti, Russell Richardson, Peter Cusack.
Yak.
Yep.
There was a few in there, Big Yak. And then 95, we didn't really have any. They were all my close mates, but none of them played footy. They were a bit pretty knockabout farmers who liked a beer in that year.
Oh, right, okay. Now, I'm going to throw a name of a player at you, and a name of a player that's never been mentioned on this program before, Gordon Falcon. Gordon Falcon is a Panthers player. He played a bit in your...
Former rugby player.
Yeah. Is that your first grade debut for the Steelers in 96 that you come up against Gordon Falcon? Just tell us that story.
Yeah, that was my first touch of the football in first grade, and he hung me up with the best stiff arm coat hang you've ever seen. And he ended up getting 8 weeks, I think. And it,
your first touch.
I wasn't going off. I'd sat on the bench for about 10 rounds under Alan McMahon, and was waiting to get on, and I finally got on. But I remember it was the week before I nearly got on against the Warriors. Mary, because I used to play a little bit of centre as well, and Paul McGregor looked like he'd broken his arm again, but I was sitting on the bench, and they were huge. And in those days, really the only Polynesian players that were in the ARL were playing for the Warriors, so you can imagine the size of their team. And I think it was Kevin or Tony Iro was playing in the centres, and I was about 88 kilos, and I looked like going on to mark him, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about who. And Mary ended up staying, so I was quite relieved.
That sounds like my debut. Tim Sheens threw me on in the centres against Manly, and Chris Close and Noel Cleal were the centres. And I was 70 kilos, and I thought, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Baz, but it didn't take you long because earlier this morning when we were talking about having you on, schoolboy in 95, made your debut in 96, and as we've learnt, didn't last long. Gordon Falcon sorted that out, which I'm thinking at an 8-week suspension in 96, boy, that must have been a bad one.
Oh, it's a good one. No, it's worth looking up on YouTube. It is worth it. It is just violent. It's a violent act.
Mate, very quickly, in 97, you're playing State of Origin and you're playing for Australia. It's a pretty meteoric rise.
Yeah, it was. It all happened very quickly, and I was really lucky at the Steelers to have some good older blokes around me. And Andrew Farrell was my coach, and David Boyle was my trainer. And they were two blokes that I'm really close to now and had a big impact on me as a person and teach you how to train hard and be a good bloke, and that's important. And then in the team we had John Crossers and Rob Wishart and David Walsh and Dean Calloway and Mary, and they were men and they were good blokes and they looked after us. They didn't they pulled us into line when we had to, and there was a few of us actually, because Craig was out at Penrith, and he come through really quickly as well.
Yep.
And so we had a good group of young blokes, but we all jumped into first grade pretty quick. But it was the Origin game. Freddie had a broken arm, and I probably got a jersey by default. The first one, wasn't quite ready for it. I was quite sure what I was doing, but it was. I probably learnt more off the field off Tommy Radonicus than on it that year, and that nearly killed me. That was harder than the game. With Tom.
We need to know more now that you've pulled back those curtains. So, Tom, there's not a lot of the tactics. It was just the spirit.
Passion,
the jersey.
Yeah, there was there wasn't a lot of tactics. I don't think he spoke to me about the footy all year. He just told me to get in and have a go, and that was fine with me. But as I said, it took me a couple of years to cement my spot in the Origin side after that series, and I was ready for it the next time I went in. And we was pretty lucky during the Origin career. Early, we had a really good side and probably were more dominant over Queensland, and that changed at the back end. Obviously, they went on their run, but late 90s, early 2000s, we had a really good team.
You ended up playing 11 games for New South Wales, playing 15 tests for Australia at the Dragons, and very quickly, only a couple of years later, you're in a grand final in 1999, the big one. And we've spoken. We spoke to Craig Smith a couple of weeks ago about the try, and I guess that you will always look back on that and think that's one that got away.
Yeah, it certainly was. Actually, we had a moment there at Acor the other day, and the young blokes were asking me about that 99 grand final. Half of them weren't born, so I took them down to that spot where Craig Smith got hit by Jamie Ainscough. So that hurts, and I suppose at that age, because I was only young, you think you're going to play in a grand final every year, but it didn't happen, and it ended up being the only grand final that I played in as a player, and we lost that game in really unusual circumstances. I think we were leading 18-2 at one point.
Yeah, 14 at half time, which is a good experience to draw on for Broncos players, that you were able to tell the tale of what it's like to lead by 14.
Yeah, and it was just, I don't know, still a bit of a whirlwind. I have not watched that whole game, to be honest, and I probably never will.
Don't do it.
No, I won't.
The next year, Trent, 2000 is magical because you're the Dally M medal winner. By the way, question without notice, do you know the number one song in 2000? Brandy won the Dally M in 85. We found out the Careless Whisper by Wham! George Michael was number one. What was the number one song in 2000? What were you listening to when you celebrated your Dally M medal win? Do you remember 2000?
It might have been a Powderfinger song or something
Powderfinger.
like that.
It was Faith Hill, Breathe. Was your suit a hire suit or did you buy it? Did you wear a cummerbund? All these questions. What colour was the suit for the Dally?
Nah, I would have hired it. I had some awful suits in those days. They weren't good, but I think I hired my suit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just black number? Straight black.
Yeah, plain.
Straight black. Oh, that's boring. Brandy went to pink. See, Brandy went to pink back in 85.
Baz wouldn't believe that. He wouldn't think Brandy and pink.
Brandy pink. The Pink Panthers, 40 years before they became that. Now, we're going to play you a little grab from 2000. Do you remember this moment?
They're away again with Barrett. Oh, they're going to be a try-scoring feast to finish. Young Trent Barrett. Talk about moments in a young bloke's career. He's got one at Old Trafford as well. Trent Barrett scores.
Boy from Temora scoring at the Theatre of Dreams, Old Trafford. What do you remember about that day? World Cup final.
Yeah, that was an awesome trip. That was they were just a great bunch of blokes. It was a World Cup. Yeah, we had 12 weeks in Leeds. Freddie was our captain. We had and I remember that one. So I was again on the bench on that one. I come on late and played left centre. Shane Webke tipped the ball onto Freddie, and Freddie put me way down that left edge. Yeah. So that was a bit of a surreal moment, but that was one of the best trips I've been on. Chris Anderson was the coach. He was good to play under. We had a bit of free rein over there, but a great team and just a lot of really good fellas. But that era, probably the following year, and then we had Lottie and Wendell on the wing, and we had Gids and Gerds in the centres. Lockie was fullback. I played 5'8". Freddie was lock. Joey was half.
Boy, that's a good side.
It was a fair two. And then Bedgie came in the following year. So it was unbelievable. Yeah, that was the best side I'd ever played in.
Something that I regret I didn't do, Baz, was while toured in England, I didn't play for a club over there. But you did. You played for Wigan for a couple of years. Yeah. You had Lullaby. You had Brian Fletcher as one of your teammate. Phil Bailey, Pat Richards. How was that experience?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was... and I was still young at that point. I was turned 30, I was 29, but I was still playing well. I probably needed to get over there, and just have a bit of a break. I probably, looking back, I went a little bit early and probably should have stayed here a little bit longer, but it was, an awesome time. It was just good fun. The English people were good. Wigan were fantastic. And, we made the prelim both years, I think, that year, and I'm hoping that they can I'd like to see Willie Peters in Hull KR beat Wigan, but if Wigan win, we'll get to play him in the World Club Challenge. So, and Madge coached him as well, so that'd be a good one for
What
him.
a great stat. Yeah,
Yes.
two, a former player and a former coach going back to play them in the World Club Challenge. Just one last one, just on coaching, Trent. What's the coaching future look like for you? Do you still have the burning desire to be the head coach, or now that you've been assistant coach and out of that absolute pressure cooker role, do you find you enjoy that more?
They're two completely different roles. I think the experience that I've had being a head coach is certainly beneficial for when you do go back to being an assistant. You know exactly what the head coach needs. I've probably had two false starts, with Manly and Canterbury, and probably were warned against both of them at a young age by people I probably should have listened to. But I'm a hell of a lot better coaching for the experiences that I've been in. So the assistant stuff, I love, but you deep down, you would like another crack at it. But you have to. One thing I have learned is you have to go to a club that suits you. You have to go to a club that suits not only your personality, but I guess the way you coach, the way you recruit the players, you recruit what they've got there, and how well run the club is as well. And I think that's one thing with Brisbane. It's the best club I've seen by quite a length in terms of off the field, how they do things, the size of it, the support they get, the facilities. It's huge, and we're lucky enough to have some brilliant players as well, which makes my job easier as an attack coach. But probably to answer your question, I would like another crack at it, but I'm certainly in no hurry. I've always been pretty impatient, but I think that's one thing I have learned. You do need patience, and I'm willing to sit up here for a while and keep learning, because I have learned a lot off Madge, particularly during these big games and how he handles those, and probably with the pre-season too, about how he handled his pre-season. And I guess his experience at Manly and the experience of winning at Melbourne and South and Wigan, I have learned a lot there. So it's been a really good move for me.
Well, that's a good note to finish. Well, you should enjoy the success of the Brisbane Broncos. You are entitled to a little downtime. I don't know how much that is. But Trent, well done, and just loved hearing your story today of a country kid made big in rugby league.
No, thanks, fellas. I appreciate it.
Michael, doctors say a proper breakfast includes eggs, bacon and breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. So get your daily fix through our socials and listen live on SEN Radio.